if you're a Red Sox fan, you should be very happy about the Garrett Crochet deal. You're acquiring a starting pitcher who had the best strikeout rate in MLB in 2024. He's the starter with the best strikeout to walk ratio in baseball in 2024. He's going into his age 26 season with 2 more years of team control. Mm-hmm. And not just that, but MLB Trade Rumors is projecting his 2025 salary through arbitration to be only 2.9 million, which is an absolute steal. I mean, even if that's even if they're off by, they're pretty good at it. So
they could be off by 5 million and it would be pretty great.
Yeah. Let's say they're off by 50% and he's getting 5 to 6 million. Like that's still a steal. And I would think he'd probably be very open to an extension before the season starts for a player who, again, who's still in his mid-20s, as opposed to free agent starters who are going to cost way more and are probably going into the decline phase of their career, right? So is there some injury risk here? Yeah. I mean, we've only seen him as a starter for 1 year, but it was he's been a dominant front of the rotation starter that year. It's a hot market for free agents. The price to sign these guys we're seeing is extremely high. And maybe they can still sign Corbin Burns too, maybe not, but they need pitching and they're getting relatively young pitching compared to what you would get on the free agent market and under team control for multiple years at a low salary. And then to do that without having to give up Roman Anthony, without having to give up Christian Campbell, without having to give up Marcelo Meyer or Tristan Casas too. I mean, I know he's not a prospect anymore, but obviously a young central part of that organization. That to me is a huge win for the Red Sox. I thought the Red Sox would be in a very good position to trade for Crochet, in part because they have Marcelo Meyer and he'd be a great trade chip to dangle. Maybe that still happens. I mean, if the Pirates call and say like, hey, our pitching is good, we've got that, our lineup kind of sucks, like we need help, you guys have maybe the opposite problem, let's talk Jared Jones or Bubba Chandler. Maybe that's on the table. I don't know, but keeping Meyer, keeping Campbell, keeping Anthony, and acquiring Crochet in the process, I think it's tremendous for the Red Sox and keeps a lot of options open for them to continue building for the 2025 season and beyond.
Yeah, no, it's hard to not like this deal. I like it from both sides. I'm curious if you think that the White Sox maybe didn't get enough of a return just based on how excited you were on this deal for the Red Sox, but I think it's one of those deals that has a chance. Obviously, historically, I think when you're trading away impact major leaguers for prospects, it just happens to be the case that most of the time that major league piece just looks better because we all know prospects, not all these guys are going to pan out. But if you are going to move a player like this who really does not have a lot of value on your team now, 2 years of control, you don't look like you're going to be competing in the next few years, I think it makes way more sense to move him now. I mean, he was the biggest trade piece on the market for this exact reason. Everything you highlighted, the youth, the cost, the impact that he shows when he's on the mound. Fingers crossed that he stays healthy because he's just a lot of fun to watch, and he has dealt with some injuries in the past, and he hasn't been the most durable pitcher in the world, but when he's on, he's going to give you a chance to win. But I really like this return for the White Sox. It's centered around hitters. It's centered around hitters that are either towards the upper levels of the minors or players who I would expect to move quickly. I mean, Braden Montgomery was in kind of the elite tier of this 2024 class as a college hitter with power, with arm strength, with track record. Kyle Teel has improved his stock with his performance in pro ball. Chase Meidroth has a really advanced hit tool. And then Gonzalez is kind of this intriguing fourth piece that just adds to the depth. But really the top three for me, I thought it was a really strong return for Chicago. And you can kind of see this core of young prospects that are very near the major leagues, starting to get close. And maybe you can see what this rebuilt core is going to look like for Chicago. There are a lot of pieces to get excited about.
Yeah, from the White Sox perspective, if this is the deal that they accepted, I'm generally going to assume that it was the best offer that they had on the table. It's hard to say, right? Because we can't just look at all the other offers or know what other teams might have been willing to increase their offer to either now or later in the offseason. But the Red Sox have one of the best farm systems, or had. I'd say they still have one of the best farm systems in baseball.
Yeah, I'd say it probably goes from you have a case for the best to you're still one of the 5 or 6 best, probably.
Yeah, they have a lot more to offer than the Yankees, more than the Mets. The Orioles have Samuel Basallo, Kobe Mayo, Heston Kjerstad, but it falls off pretty hard. But the Cubs, Brewers, Phillies, there are other teams that could have put together a comparable package, maybe a better one, depending on how you value players and
I think
those teams are willing to give up.
A majority of the teams in the division we're going to talk about today probably could have put together pretty compelling packages, actually.
Yeah, but right now is the time, obviously, for the White Sox to trade Crochet. This is the peak of his value. You have one of the worst teams in the history of baseball. Again, that's not going in the presentation, but that's, you need to trade him. Hopefully, one of them, Kyle Teel will step in at some point in 2025 and become their catcher of the future. I think there's upside to become an above average regular. You hope Braden Montgomery takes off next year. He's not going to play in the big leagues in 25, but his first minor league season, that could happen. Also, last year's number 12 overall pick, Tommy Troy with the D-backs, doesn't look so great right now. Matt Shaw, who I think went one pick behind him, looks pretty good too. So, it could go a couple different directions, but sort of like with Teel, you have more floor, right? More track record.
Yep.
He's closer to being major league ready.
A little more safety in the profile.
Yeah. I don't see him being a perennial all-star type player, whereas I think there's a wider band of outcomes for what could happen with Braden Montgomery. So from the White Sox perspective, I think that a lot of how this trade ends up looking years down the road could swing on how Braden Montgomery develops, and I think we'll know a lot more about his future after the 2025 season once we see how he adapts to pro ball.
Yeah, there are some question marks with his profile, even coming from college. I think among these elite college hitters in last year's class, he probably had the most contact questions. That's just, again, relative to the very top end of the college bats in that class. I have some real questions about whether or not he should be a switch hitter moving forward. He's just been so much better from the left side throughout his amateur career that I would just rather him swing left-handed all the time. I mean, he's going to get the platoon advantage on a majority of his AVs either way. But I'll be curious to see just kind of how that develops. Hopefully he can get healthy and have a full season. We'll see what we got.
Yeah, but from the Red Sox side, I think you have to do this. I mean, Kyle Teel, he is a good prospect. He's number 25, right, on our top 100 right now. And he's one of the best young catchers in baseball, right? It's Basallo, Ethan Salas, Dalton Rushing, Jefferson Quero with the Brewers. He's close to being major league ready. He should be up at some point next season. But for me, he's not in the same tier as the Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer group.
Yeah,
so
the
for
fact
the Reds,
that you've got that really strong trio makes it feel a lot better shipping away these prospects, because it's not like you're gutting your farm system. It's not like you're getting rid of the guys that you really prize and you really think have a chance to be impact regulars, like a franchise type, and a guy like Roman Anthony. We don't see that sort of upside with Kyle Teel. Right.
You're giving up maybe your catcher of the future in Kyle Teel, and you're giving up Braden Montgomery, who was your first round pick from 2024. Who was injured too at the end of his time at Texas A&M, went 12th overall, but fits as a top 100 fits as like a top 10 overall pick, I should say, in that draft class, just on talent. We have him in our top 100 right now. Two more players in that deal. Chase Meidroth plays all over the infield, was in AAA, drew 105 walks, very high contact guy. Also well below average power. Wikelman Gonzalez, interesting arm. He would have ranked in the 20s in the Red Sox farm system. I love prospects, but we also have to understand that even a lot of the top 100 prospects won't pan out, right?
Yep.
between Teel and Montgomery, the odds are that one of the two, I think, will turn into an everyday guy. The other won't. Maybe Meidroth does end up becoming one too, but I think the power with him is very limited, and he's not really suited for shortstop. In the big leagues, it's more second base, third base, probably more second base. And for the Red Sox, I think the odds are better that Christian Campbell is your second baseman of the future anyway. So I think this is such a win.
And this is a great example for anytime people are concerned when you have a number of prospects at one position, why that really is such a non-issue, because you make trades like this. You trade from those positions of strength in your farm system, and most of those guys, like you said, are not going to pan out. So even though you can kind of look at the tool set and look at the profile and project like, oh, what would this player be like in a like 80th percentile outcome, they're not all going to hit that. And with Meidroth specifically, there's just a lot riding on a hit tool. There's not a lot of secondary tools to fall back on if that hit tool isn't legitimately plus. Like there's not a lot of margin for error with him.
Yeah, this is what a big market team should do too. You should try to build an exceptional player development pipeline, but also be willing to trade prospects from that to help the major league team when necessary and when the right opportunity comes up. The Dodgers are an extremely well-run organization, and we talk about what they've been able to do and build through scouting and player development. Other large market teams like the Mets have been public about talking about how they want to emulate what the Dodgers have done in terms of the ability to both compete for big ticket free agents while also having a robust scouting and player development pipeline. The Dodgers do that, but they're also willing to trade their prospects too. And typically they've traded the right prospects and held on to, they've held on to players like Walker Buehler or Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, going back a ways now, but more recently with Will Smith or Gavin Stone. But they're also willing to trade prospects like Keibert Ruiz or Miguel Vargas. What was it when he was traded to the Josiah Gray, Thyron Lorenzo, Ryan Pepio. Michael Bush is a different situation. The Yordan Alvarez trade obviously backfired on him. He never played an official game for the Dodgers, but okay. There's some risk, but you have to know your own talent, and you have to be able to look at your own prospects that the people in your organization signed through an objective and fair lens that isn't just rose-tinted glasses. It's kind of a longer conversation we can have another time because we just have too much to get to on today's episode. But you have to understand that even the prospects that you're excited about, a lot of them still won't work out, and that's why you build a strong farm system to be able to sometimes leverage that to help your major league team win, even if it means trading prospects sometimes.